Come on. Come on. You can come up here. You can come up here. Here, let me move some stuff for you so you can come up. Come here. All right, you can just hide behind the tripod. That's fine. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Nitty Natty. Well, welcome to episode 278 of the Love in Stitches podcast. We are still in Pennsylvania. We've had some van trouble. I'll share more about that towards the end of the episode in the live segment, but I am really happy to be here today. I've had a really relaxing week. I've gotten so much knitting and crochet and spinning done. I can't wait to show you. It is a rather gloomy day today. It's funny because the past few days have been super sunny, and then today, on the morning that I'm filming my podcast, it is dark. So hopefully you can still see me pretty well. I know it's not the best lighting, but I am working with the natural light, and I don't know, it feels kind of cozy. I should have lit a candle or something. I do have a candle right here, but it's not my candle, so I don't want to burn it up, even though it smells so good. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in today's episode. I feel like we better get right to it. Today's episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it super easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from content to products to time, all in one place and all on your own terms. I'll be sharing more about how I use Squarespace later on in the episode. Let's start with my Florence Tee. I have cast on a new t-shirt. I was swatching it last week, so I guess let's start there. So I ended up having to rip out the swatch that I did last week, but not to worry. I made a brand new one. I am using 29 Bridges Go-To Sock for this. What's my colorway called? Linen. So it's just this nice, kind of soft white, off-white kind of color, which I think is going to be fun for summer because this t-shirt is cute. It's v-neck, it's cropped, it has lace on the sleeves, lace on the bottom. I am planning to make mine just slightly longer, but I don't know exactly how long yet. I have plenty of yarn. I bought an entire, extra skein. I brought an extra skein, but also I think I only needed 2.5 for my size, and now I'm going to have an extra skein and a half, which is good because I had some gauge issues. So I ended up going down a hook size. This is not a surprise to me. I am a very loose crocheter and knitter, but even looser with crochet. And the recommended hook size was a C. I went down to a B, and I still did not get the stitch gauge. I'm really close on the row gauge. I think I'm 1 row off and 4 inches. So for me, that's very much something I can adjust for by either adding more length or taking away length. I guess taking away length in this case. But the stitch gauge, I was pretty far off. So I had to do a little math and a little figuring out of what size I wanted to make. So for me, for my measurements, I measure about 34 inches in the bust. However, when it comes to the rest of my body, I am not quite as small. That would probably put me in the small range or small to medium range, but usually going up a size for me is the better thing to do, just because when it comes to the rest of my body, my hips and everything, I feel a little more comfortable with a little more space. So I kind of used that to make my decision to make the size medium, which I believe was going to be a 40-inch bust. And then we have to tie in my gauge issue here. So I was getting 21 stitches in 4 inches, so 5.25 stitches per inch. So what I did, and I've done this before in lots of patterns when I'm not quite hitting the stitch gauge. So I could have continued to go down hook sizes, but my gauge wasn't really changing that much going down hook sizes anyway, so I kind of felt like I'd hit my limit. I like this fabric. My hands with the yarn and the hook were just not wanting to make anything smaller. So rather than keep fussing with the gauge or try to make myself crochet smaller, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay consistent with that. I decided to adjust the size. So I looked at the medium, which is my size that I should be making, and I looked at the total stitch count for the bust. I took that total stitch count divided it by my actual gauge, and ended up finding out that if I made that size with the gauge that I have, I would have a bust size, a finished size of 46, which would be way more ease than I really want in this pattern. So then I went down to the next size, the size small, and I looked at that stitch count and I divided it by my gauge, 5.25, and found that if everything stays the same and I make that size, the final bust would be about 41 inches, which was perfect because that was really close to my intended bust of about 40 inches. So that's how I came to the conclusion to make the size small. That is just one of those tricky things with knitting and crochet that, I don't know, we'll see if it comes out. I'm not saying this is gonna be like perfect and this is gonna solve all of my problems. I'm still gonna continue to try things on, measure my gauge, check on things. Sorry, I think I might have a dog hair or a fuzz from yarn. But it's looking okay. So I'm really excited to show you what I have done because I just officially started this just a couple days ago, and I have already made so much progress. I'm feeling really encouraged by this. I was a little nervous because I haven't had the most success with crochet garments and fit before, but something about this with the flowy fabric, working with a yarn that I really like, the construction of it is really cool. I'll talk more about that after I show it to you. I think it's coming out pretty good. So here is what I have. Look at that. It's already looking like a top. And what's fun about this, because I've just joined across the back here, here's what it looks like. Ta-da, is I can actually throw this over my head and do kind of a semi try on. Of course, I won't know for sure until I attach the body and really get to put it on, but it seems to be fitting fine. It's definitely not too small. If anything, it's still looking somewhat big, but I think it's probably okay. So I will put this on in just a second, but I want to show you, or I want to talk about the construction because this is feeling really similar to knitting for me. Of course it is. I don't know why I'm surprised by that at all, but it's giving me some comfort being more confident in my garment knitting than I am in crochet. It's giving me comfort to see the similarities in those two crafts, so I thought I would kind of share that. So this is really cool. This is my first time doing a pattern by Courtney Clark of I Love Tinderbox, and it's coming off of a time we just got to interview her in the Love and Stitches membership, so like I'm even more excited about her patterns. Anyway, it's just really cool. Oh, one thing about the pattern writing, there's something cool she does where each line or each row has its own box in the pattern. You know how sometimes in crochet things are lumped together in a paragraph? I find that visually really hard for me to track with my eyes. Like I'm looking down at my pattern and then I go back, or I'm looking down at my project, I go back to the pattern and I'm like, where am I? Like it's easy to get lost. So, hey Toaster. I think we just heard some thunder, didn't we, buddy? So I really like that each pattern. You wanna come up here? Come on. Come on. Come on. You can come up here. You can come up here. Here, let me move some stuff for you so you can come up. Come here. All right, you can just hide behind the tripod. That's fine. Anyway, I think that's a really cool thing. So the construction of this is something I've never done in crochet before. It probably is very common, but I am delighted in it because it's new for me. So what you do is you start with a front. You work this front all the way. Then you work the other front all the way down. And then you join the fronts. I've done this before in knitting, super, super cool. And then I thought, okay, now we're gonna like work the back pieces and then we'll end up sewing them together. No, this is seamless so far. You pick up, you really can't even see it, but you pick up your stitches. The other thing is I'm having a hard time telling which is the right side and which is the wrong side. I think I've marked it with markers because I honestly can't tell at this point in my crochet career, but that's okay. Anyway, you pick up and then you work a little bit of the back, and then I've just joined the back. So you can see the back is obviously a lot higher than the V-neck in the front, and I will work this down, then eventually join the body. I just think that's so cool. So cool. Okay, so if I put this on, kind of get the shoulder seams on top of my shoulders. I know it's hard to tell because I'm also wearing a white top, but I mean, I think it's looking okay. Like I said, if anything, possibly a little bit big, but I don't know, I think it's okay because the edge of the shoulders is lining up pretty close to the edge of my shoulders without going totally over, like falling completely open. I imagine that that will kind of tighten up a little bit as I add the round around the collar, also do more in the back. This is looking pretty spot on. So I think my gauge issue of having too big of a gauge combined with going down a size is going to be okay. That's the other thing that's really nice about crochet garments is that it's very easy to try things on and a lot more accurate. I feel like my gauge didn't really change that much from pre-blocking to post-blocking. So this is going to be fairly accurate and I don't have to put it onto tubing or anything to try it on. So I am so pleased with this so far. I'm having so much fun. I have dreams, of course, of like finishing this in a week, but that's probably not going to happen now that I have, I've done all the small pieces, right? Now that I have a lot more stitches, it is going a little bit slower, but I will probably do something pretty similar to what I do with knitted garments. Once I get the body joined and I do an inch or two and I try it on and I'm liking it, I will probably come up and go ahead and finish off the neck and the sleeves just to have those things done. That way I can just go round and round on the body and it will become a nice, easy TV project. I have started another new project this week. It's something that I have been prepping for a while. Actually, the last time that I was here staying with Brianna, I wound up a ton of yarn for this project, and that is the Cozy Comfort Throw. So let me tell you the details about this one. So I am using an Advent plus 7 skeins of fingering weight. I'm holding yarn double throughout the whole thing to basically do this garter stitch blanket. This is the Cozy Comfort Throw by Homespun House. It is a paid for pattern, but it's a really simple one. It's garter stitch and then you add an I-cord to the edge of it. So truly cozy and comforting. So I made, are you okay, Toaster? And Toaster's having some issues this morning. I made these giant cakes of yarn from an Advent. This is the Little Wolf Knits Schitt's Creek Advent from 2023. I believe it's season 3. She's making Advents for all the seasons. And then I am holding it together with a nice neutral called Sandy Cheek. So I have 7 skeins of this and there's 31 20-gram minis of this. So this is my first one. Actually, I am a little nervous. Well, it is what it is at this point. I have 2 giant cakes, but look what this one says. It says 1 through 13. So I think that I pulled this skein out of that bag and this one is 1 through 13. And then I put that one into the bag, but now I can't remember if that's what I actually did. At this point, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to start over. It also doesn't matter because the Advent itself has colors that all work together, but they're not in a specific order. So when I caked these up, I did a Russian join, which is a really cool technique to join together yarns. You take a needle and you kind of link your 2 ends together and you thread one of the ends and then you like weave it back through that strand on both sides. You're gonna have to look up a YouTube video because me explaining it probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's actually not complicated once you see a proper tutorial. And then it kind of links things together and it works really well. I've only hit 1 so far. I've only made it into my second color and I'll show you that so you can see. But anyway, I'm not sure if I actually started at color 1 or not, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So there you go. I did decide to start with one of my single cakes because I kind of want to see, I should put a yarn cozy on this. I kind of want to see how long it takes me in days, I guess, to work through this one cake, because then that will give me a range of how long the project is going to take in general if I have 7 skeins. I did tie together these full skeins into larger cakes like this as well. So, oh my gosh, I keep finding popcorn in my project bag from when we went to the movies. Oh my gosh. So anyway, I'm bouncing all over the place, but this is going to be a long-term project. I wanted to have it because I want to work through the many advents that I have acquired over the past few years. And I figured that this would be a really great, easy, simple one for me to have while we're traveling. I can pull it out. It's a great morning project while I'm knitting and reading. It's a great evening project if we're watching a movie. It's something I can do if we're out and about, honestly, right now, because it's not super big, because it just doesn't take any concentration. It is just garter stitch. I thought that you did the I-cord as you went, but you don't. You do it afterwards. So it's literally just garter. So you can see I have color 1, which is the blue, and then color 2 is like, it's hard to see in this light. Honestly, I can't even see. It's a really subtle, like little bit of brown and yellow in there. All of the colors are really subtle, so I think this is just gonna blend super nicely. So let me find one of those Russian join spots so I can kind of show you what it looks like. I haven't trimmed the end yet. Here we go. Because I'm thinking I might block things first. So, actually, you know what? I wonder if this is the second round, because when I was winding these together, at first I was trimming. When I would do the Russian join, I would trim and then continue winding. And then as I went on, I was like, you know what? Let me just leave the ends and I'll trim them after I'm done knitting. And this one has an end. So I wonder if it is my second one. Anyway, so the part where I did the Russian join is right here. You can see a tiny end here and a longer end here. And as soon as I trim those ends, again, probably after I wash it at the end, you're not gonna see anything. And I feel like it's gonna stay interlinked really well. I can't even tell that like it didn't really even seem to bulk up that area as things sometimes can do if you hold things double. So I think it looks really good. So hopefully this will just keep growing week after week. Oh, I did make one adjustment. I forgot about that. So the original pattern is written for a 24 mini skein advent, and I have a 31 mini skein advent. So I wanted to adjust the width to be a little bit wider so it's balanced with the length, because obviously mine's gonna be a bit longer. So when I started this, I made the world's most puny swatch ever, because I really just wanted to check the fabric. So down here, I went down to a needle size 6. The suggested needle size is an 8. I figured that's gonna be way too big for me. I'm a loose knitter, so I started with a 6, and I felt that that was maybe a little bit dense. Like, it's nice and squishy, but I'm like, let me just try a 7. So up here, from about here up, I did a 7, and I liked that way more, so I ended up going with the 7. And based off of this, again, tiny dinky swatch, I figured that my blanket with 31 colors would probably be about 8 inches longer than the original blanket. So if it's gonna be about 8 inches longer, then I wanted to add at least 3 inches to the width. And so I was able to use my stitch count to figure out how many inches or how many stitches that would be. And it ended up being 15. So I was getting 5 stitches per inch. So adding 15 stitches would add 3 inches to my width. So I added 15 to the cast on, and I just have been zooming since then. I do think that my blanket is actually probably going to be even longer than that, because what I forgot is I am working every mini skein to the very end, which seems to give me, with this stitch count, I'm getting about 7.5 to 8 rows, I think. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, actually, I guess about 16 rows, about 8 garter ridges, which is a little bigger than the pattern. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I just didn't want it to be like this narrow and super long. I think it's gonna be fine. Like I said, I'm really enjoying having a cozy, comforting project. All right, remember that crazy to-do list from last week? Well, since we have been spending more time here than I could have planned, I've actually had a lot of time to work on that unrealistic to-do list, and I've made some really good progress. So let's just go from the top. Number one, I wanted to block and bind off my skyline, and it is totally and completely done. Here's the proof. I've even worn it out to dinner once. I was wearing it last week, but it was on tubing and I hadn't done the bind off yet. So now it is 100% done. The second thing on my to-do list was to catch up on all my Canada squares and just be completely done with them. And, oh gosh, I just dropped some stuff. I am completely caught up. And since we're not in Canada right now, I am no longer adding to this at the moment, but of course I will be once we start traveling again. So check, that's another thing done off the to-do list. Those two things I felt fine about. Number three, I wanted to swatch for my Florence and start that, and I've done that. I've not only started it, I've gotten a good way into the Florence. I am, like I showed you before, working on the back, so that feels really, really good. So 3 things off the to-do list. The other thing I wanted to do was work on my spinning project that I started in February. I am on the plying part of this. It'd be like in a perfect world, I would completely finish plying. I wasn't very far into it. And I would skein everything up, wash those skeins, and like walk away when we go back into the van with yarn instead of all of these singles on bobbins. So this is what I had when we got here last week. These 2 bobbins plied. I have tiny 2-ounce bobbins. My spinning wheel is so tiny, but that's okay. And now I have this, that's 5, that's 9, that's 11. I have plied up 9 more bobbins. I am so proud of myself. They haven't all been perfect or easy. I did have to work one of them twice, actually 3 times, because it was too loose. So then I had to run it back through again, and then I had to run it back through a 3rd time to get it back to the original order. Anyhow, things are going well at this point. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 singles left in here. So I am thinking I might just get this done. I need to start winding off these bobbins that have already been finished and sat and rested, because I think that will, one, it will break up the monotony of plying. Plying is like not the most interesting thing to do. Spinning is way more fun. It'll break that up. Plus it will make me feel like I've made even more progress because I've moved some things on to the next step. So I just need to do that. I might start it this afternoon while I can borrow Brianna's larger Nitty Knotty. So maybe next week I'll have some yarn to actually show you. That would be really, really exciting. So that's going well too. It's not done. I haven't been able to check it off the list, but I have been plying approximately, I guess not quite 2 bobbins a day, but you know, that's my semi goal. And then the last thing I had on my list was to start Toaster's Canada blanket. Somebody gave a suggestion, why don't I use the leftovers from my Canada blanket, which is these, to make a blanket for Toaster. So I thought that was a really great idea. And then I started to get kind of obsessed with it. Like, yeah, it'd be so cool to like use up even more of these yarns and just not be, I don't know if wasteful is the right word, but like I wouldn't have to think of another way to use these up. And that would be cool for Toaster to have another blanket. It seems like he has a million, but he actually only has 1 blanket that I've crocheted him. So another one would be really great. And I thought I'll start the hexagon blanket, the same one that I made for my 50 states blanket. That will be really great. I already know how to do it. I can start in the center, continue to add to it, which works well because I don't know exactly how many yarns I'm going to have at the end of the day. And then it will feel not like an ongoing project so much, like kind of like my squares, right? I can do my squares and then that can feel done. And it doesn't feel like I have this big lingering project going on. I can just kind of chip away at it. Anyway, I did start it, but then I kind of felt like I'm not sure if this is the direction that I want to go. So I took my first Canada yarn that I got from Leo and Roxy, and I made one hexagon. So if I continue in this manner, I will add 6 hexagons around here, and then I'll continue adding to them. The only thing is I still have so much yarn left, and this was the yarn that I had the most leftovers for, so that's maybe not fair. Like, let's see, this, for example, already looks approximately like this one, and I haven't used these yet, so I probably will end up using more of it. So maybe I will continue on with this. But then I got another comment. Actually, I may have gotten 2 similar comments from somebody saying, what if you did a blanket where you can use those leftovers up to the very end? I think actually somebody suggested the Cozy Comfort Throw, which I had already started with a different project, or different yarn. So I'm not gonna do a second Cozy Comfort Throw, but it did get me thinking, like, what if I could find another project, or another blanket, whether it's knitted, probably crochet, because I do want this to be a little bit faster. I don't want to have 2 knitted blankets going right now, where I could start in the center or start at the bottom and just go until I use up all the yarn. So I'm still debating that, which is why I did the 1 hexie and then kind of stalled out. But I don't know. I'm either going to continue with this and just do the hexies, or I might pivot to a different kind of project where I can just add on and on and on. I guess I wouldn't have to get rid of this. I'm sure there's a way where I could just keep going around this hexagon. That actually could be kind of cool, because then I could really use up these yarns till the end, and it would just be kind of a continuous project, and I could magic knot them or Russian join them like I did with the Cozy Comfort Throw. That's something to think about. I don't know yet, but if you have any suggestions, please let me know. So that's the to-do list. I do have one other project. That's not it. Where is it? I do have one other project I've been working on this week, which is like not that. I mean, it's exciting. It's a sock, but it's not like that exciting. So I figured I would share it in this part of the episode. But I have been chipping away on one of my lovely sock week socks. This yarn is from So Happy Jane. It's called Huckleberry Sunday, and I am working the Vanilla is the New Black pattern, which includes this really cool heel. It is a version of the strong heel, and the pattern is by Anae Fletcher. So I have turned the heel. I am now working down the foot. I forgot how much I like this heel. In the Love and Stitches membership, we are doing a month of heels in July. So this is one of the heels that we're going to explore. And so I wanted to brush up on it before we do that so I can be helpful. So I'm hoping to finish this sock and then get started on the second one, go ahead and get through the leg. I need to hurry up because July is coming really, really soon. But I forgot how much I like this heel, because you essentially do increases, really nice increases. You do a little bit of short row stuff, and then you're back to your original stitch count and you just go. There's no gusset decreases or anything like that, which is really, really nice. Now I had thought I would add in one of the lovely contrast colors when I did the heel turn. So I would have added it in here, but I totally forgot how I did that last time. I've done this pattern before with a self-striping sock. So when I got to the short rows, I changed colors because I didn't want to disrupt the stripes, but I totally forgot how I did that. And we were at dinner when I started the heel. So I thought, you know what, let me just keep it simple and keep it the same color. So I think I'm going to add, I'm definitely going to use the contrast color for the toe, but I might also add some little stripies in the foot, like near the toe, just for fun, just to be a little bit different. So yeah, I have gotten so much done on my projects this week. And since we're having van trouble, I should, bright side, I should have a lot of time to get more done on these projects in the next week. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. It has been 2 years since KnittyNatty.com has been hosted on Squarespace, and I just love it because it is so easy to use. I was able to create my own website in just a few clicks and then tweak everything from there. The best part is you don't need any prior experience because you can get started easily with one of their many templates. I also love that the editing screen is modular, so it's super easy to customize how each of my pages look. Squarespace has a range of options, whether you're looking to sell physical items like yarn and stitch markers, or maybe create a membership or sell courses. And Squarespace makes it easier than ever to take payments. Customers now have even more ways to pay with popular options like Klarna, ACA Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. If you're a small business owner, it couldn't be easier to get your site started with Squarespace. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/nittynatty and use my code nittynatty to save 10% off your first website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. I hope you've been enjoying the question segment because I've really enjoyed it. It gives me something fresh and new and interesting to talk about, so I really appreciate your questions. If you have a question for me, just put it in the comments below, but if you will please put #question at the very beginning of your comment, that will help me a lot because it's easy for me to go and identify the questions for the episode. All right, I got 5 great questions to answer this week. The first one is from JK. You have mentioned siblings in the past. I'm curious, are they knit-worthy? So yes, I have 3 younger siblings. They are super, super awesome. I love them so much. We get along so well. We go on trips together. We love to go visit them. And they're definitely knit-worthy, though I can't say I've made them much in the past few years. When I first started knitting, I'm sure like many other knitters and crocheters, I made things. I put that huge pressure on myself to make stuff for my family every single Christmas. And I probably didn't make them things that they really wanted. So that happened, that was many years ago. And then as the years have gone on, sometimes I'll make them things, sometimes I won't. And at this point, I'm sort of at a request situation. So if one of my siblings requests something, I will definitely make it for them. I've made hats for my brothers. I've made socks for them. What else have I made? I have one brother in particular that is, requests more, I would say. He is really good at finding stuff on the internet. He'll find something, whether it's knit or crochet, and it's something kind of unique. I think I've made him, this was when he was in middle school, but I made him this hat that looked like a knight's helmet, which was really fun. And then I think I made him slippers that looked like Converse. Again, this was all really far in the past, but occasionally he'll find something interesting for me to make him and I will make it for him because it's very fun. And he also will ask me early on in the fall, he has a really good sense of that this is going to take a while. So I appreciate that too. I should just ask them if they want anything, especially now, I feel like my knitting, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but is more refined a little bit. I could probably make them things that are more like the things that they would be buying anyway, rather than things that are a little more kitschy, like a knight's helmet. But I would make that still as well. All right, next question is from Jamie. What is a good first garment for a new knitter? And you mentioned that you already crochet garments, but this would be your first time knitting a garment. So that's really exciting. It's it's not my first time crocheting a garment, but every time I crochet a garment, it's been so many years since I did the last one, it kind of feels like the first time. So I feel you in this. So I have 2 pattern recommendations, and I would also love if everyone else could comment their pattern recommendations, because the more, the better. And I only have so many that I've tried personally myself. So the first one I'm gonna recommend, actually I have not knitted myself, but I have heard this recommendation from so many people, and that is the Flax pattern by Tin Can Knits. So I do know a little bit about why this pattern is such a great beginner-friendly pattern. First of all, Tin Can Knits has just really wonderful, really well-written patterns. They also include a huge range of sizes, not just in adults, but also down to babies and toddlers. So if you did want to try making just a toddler size sweater just to get the basics down, that might be something that you consider. I know for me, I want to make something for myself. So they also have the flax in adult sizes, and they have at least 3 different gauges. They have the flax light, which is fingering weight. They have a DK one, and they have a worsted weight one. They might have even more. Tin Can Knits also has an app where you can go to certain patterns of theirs and put in your own size and gauge, and it will spit the pattern out with just your number. So you will be familiar with this, of course, in crochet garments. When you're reading the pattern, it's going to say like, you know, the extra small size number first, and then the small, and then the medium, and then the large. And like, depending on your size, most of us have to go over so many numbers to get to our size, which adds a little bit to the confusion. So that can be kind of nice. So anyway, the flax pattern is a really great beginner friendly one. And then the one that I thought of that I have made recently is the Twisted Tee shirt by Brianna Lapino, the Little Wolf Knits. This is a really simple classic t-shirt. It's done in 2 colors, or you can do it in multiple. I actually striped mine. It was really fun. But it's just a basic raglan construction, which is something you're going to find in a lot of knitted garments. So it'd be a really great way to practice. Plus, being a t-shirt, it's not going to take as much time as a full sweater. You just go and add a little bit onto the sleeves. Like if you can add a little bit onto the sleeves, you know how to add a lot onto the sleeves. I mean, you're going to miss decreasing in the sleeves, but that's it. And you probably already know how to do that. So I think a t-shirt is a great way to go, but the flax is also a good option for a longer sweater. And then, of course, if anyone has any recommendations for beginner tees or sweaters, please put them down below. Okay, question 3 is from Susie. You mentioned before that you're a former teacher. What did you teach and where did you teach? Yeah, so before I took this full-time, I was a school teacher, and I was doing podcasts and tutorials and pattern writing a little bit on the side before I was able to make this my full-time job, which I'm so, so grateful for. So I was a teacher in Texas, in the Dallas area. I taught at 2 different schools there, both in charter schools. That's where I started out, and I just ended up like 1 year staying in the same district, but switching from one school to the next. So I taught elementary school. I actually started out teaching 4th grade, realized that was not for me, and went to kindergarten the next year. I taught 2 years of kindergarten. And then I was like, man, classroom teaching is exhausting. I'm an introvert, and being on all day was just wearing me out. And so I really got excited about trying to be oh gosh, I'm going to forget the word for it now. What did we call it? An intervention teacher, I think is what we called it. But I've also heard it called like sometimes resource, sometimes like a specialist, or different things like that. I didn't have an additional certification, but I was able to teach small group, essentially, is what that is. So that was my 4th year of teaching. I moved from one school to the next, and I started teaching reading intervention, which I loved so much. My first year, I got to teach kindergarten and 1st and 2nd, which is my favorite. I love the smallest kids. It's so impactful when you can be a part of those early stages of reading. I personally think you can make so much more progress and impact if you are able to do intervention in the early stages of reading. But I ended up, over the years, I kept getting moved up grade levels. So I continued to do reading intervention for 4 years at that same school. Again, loved it. Loved the school, loved the teachers. And I continued moving up. So like by my last year, I was mostly working with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, which I still loved, but I missed the little kids for sure. So yeah, that was it. I did almost 7 years. We moved to New York City in April of my 7th year of teaching. So I often get asked if I would go back to teaching. I don't think that I would, but every year removed from that, I'm like, well, I guess it could be a possibility. But I think right now I'm really enjoying doing what I'm doing right now. All right, question 4 is from Madison. You mentioned you like to double strand your yarn for crochet to blend the colors. Do you pull both yarns from the same direction, like inside, or do you pull one from the inside and one from the outside? So this is a really interesting question because it is not something that I have thought about at all when I am doing this. So let me start by explaining kind of what that means. So this hexagon, for example, is double-stranded. It's 2 strands of fingering weight, which makes roughly a DK weight yarn. What I like so much about holding fingering weight double is it blends the colors really nicely. So if I were to hold this same yarn single-stranded, it would look different. Or if I were to get this yarn in a DK weight, still dyed the same way, it would look different. But when you have 2 strands and you hold them together, the colors, I think they just look more even. I kind of started doing this out of necessity because when I started my 50 states blanket, I wanted to collect yarn that was hand dyed in each state, and I could find fingering weight yarn the most easily. So then I realized, hey, I really like the way it looks. I'm actually doing the same thing for my Canada blanket. So this is also fingering weight yarn held double. It just makes the yarn just like, I don't know, blend so nicely. So your question, do I pull from the same part of each skein? So I had to really think about that because what I have been doing most of the time is if I'm able to wind the yarn into a cake, I only have one cake. And so I pull from the inside and the outside of that same cake to double it up. So in that case, I am pulling from opposite sides of the skein, right? One basically from each tail end. And I think I see why you're asking this, because one strand is gonna have the color repeat going one way, one strand will have the color repeat going the opposite way. And that probably does make it blend even better. I didn't do that intentionally, but I'm like, okay, that actually is probably what's happening. But then other times, and especially for my Canada blanket, I don't have a ball winder. So I am winding 2 skeins of yarn. So I will start at one end, I will wind up 50 grams, and then sometimes I will break the yarn and then continue with that same strand and wind it up. So I will be pulling from the same part. Is that right? No, I guess it's not, because, see, we're gonna figure this out together. So, for example, these 2, and actually they look very different. Is that right? Those might actually be different. Oh yeah, I think those actually are different. That's funny. These 2, my bad. These 2, for example, let's say I start winding. So my original strand is on the inside and then I stop, right? And then I continue with the same strand here, that's on the inside, and then I stop. So this second one that I finish, the second tail is on the outside, whereas the first tail is on the inside. So I pull from the outside of both. I guess that's going in the same direction, right? Even though it's like middle of the skein, end of the skein, it's still the same direction. But then what I started to do, what I found was easier, I didn't need my scale, is I would take one tail and I would wind up one ball up to 50 grams, and then I would grab the other tail and start winding that one up. So then I'm going from the outside in, so then I'm starting from the inside out. So I guess what I'm getting at is sometimes, yes, sometimes I'm going outside inside of one cake, sometimes I'm going from the middle out of also one cake and 2 balls formed, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I have continued in the same direction. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much as long as you're doubling up your yarn. I'm sure if you took one colorway and you're like, I'm gonna test it this way where I pull inside outside, then I'm gonna test it this way where I pull from the same part, and then I'm gonna test it this way, you probably would get fairly different results, but I don't think it's made that much of a difference for the yarns that I've used so far. Was that helpful at all or just confusing as heck? Because I feel confused. All right, last question here is from Sylvie. Do you wash your socks, your hand-knitted socks, by hand and dry them flat, or do you wash them in the delicate cycle? So the first time that I wash a pair of socks, I always wash it by hand and I wash it on its own because I want to see what's going to happen with the dye. A lot of times a little dye will still come off when you first wash things because it just does. That's just what happens. So I do that and I kind of, see what happens. Very similar to like the first time you wear a red t-shirt or a black t-shirt, you wash it, or jeans, you wash it on its own to like kind of just get it cleared out and make it fine. Then after that, as long as it doesn't bleed or bleed too much or run off any dye, I actually just wash my socks now with my regular clothes, not delicate. So I do wash my clothes on cold. So that does help, because what's going to make things wear faster is of course agitation. So washing in the washer is going to make things wear faster, but also heat will make them wear a little bit faster. So for me, I feel like especially with travel, it's just not reasonable for me to hand wash my socks. I don't have enough water to do that. I don't have enough space to let them dry out. So I throw everything in the wash. I wash on cold wherever we are. And then I try to make sure to get my socks out before they go in the dryer, and I hang them to dry. And since they've already spun out in the washer, they usually dry overnight. So that's really easy. Occasionally a sock gets through to the dryer, and because I make all my socks with superwash yarn or superwash merino and nylon, they've been fine so far. I try not to get them in the dryer, but sometimes they do and they're still okay. So that's what I do with my socks, and it's made my life so much easier. Sock Week is coming up so soon. So if you haven't heard of Sock Week, it is a make-along that we do every summer. It is 8 days long, and it is coming up July 20th through the 27th. It's a personal challenge to knit or crochet one adult sock. That's it. Our theme this year is Ice Cream Social. So I have some items that have specifically been made for Sock Week that are still available for sale. But also if you have anything in your stash that you want to use that is ice cream related, and you just have to convince us, that's all. You can use that as well and get bonus points if you're entering for prizes. So it's going to be a really fun time. So I wanted to, I want to talk about events, and then I wanted to show you which Sock Week items we still have remaining. So for this year, I'm keeping it really low key, and we are not doing any paid events. We're going to have a couple of things on Instagram Live and YouTube Live. I'm getting that all sorted out here soon, but they will all be completely free. We're also going to have a Discord again this year. It's going to open up July 1st. I'll be sharing more about that very soon, since July 1st is coming up so fast. But that will also be free. It will just be a fun community space where you can, show off your socks, ask questions, get like encouragement, submit for prizes, all of those things. But again, everything will be free, keeping it nice and low key and easy this year. Okay, so we have a few Sock Week items left that are still available for purchase. This adorable bag is from Cooper's Corner. It's bright pink on the inside. You can also choose to add on this adorable Notions pouch if you would like. We also have our yarn from Road Trip Sock Yarn. This one's called Toaster Loves Ice Cream Too. This looks like ice cream it actually looks like the sprinkles and the swirls and everything. It comes with a mini skein called Maraschino, and 10% of the sales of this yarn will go to SPCA Texas, which is where we adopted Toaster. For our Canadian friends, and anyone, we have from Polka Dot Creek this self-striping yarn called Banana Split. I have pictures of what it looks like self-striping on my website. It's so cute. I am probably going to use this one for our Afterthought Heel for the membership, so I need to get that one started up very soon. And then, let's see. Oh yes, we have the yarn bowls, the waffle cone yarn bowls from Angel's Cottage. These are 3D printed, so they are plastic, lightweight, but very sturdy. And look at the details, so good. She's also got stitch markers. I think I have them here in my little pouch. Hold on, let me grab them. Really cute 3D printed stitch markers that are available. Oh yes. Stitch markers are always hard to show on camera, but there's an ice cream truck. Oh, actually, that's doing really good. There's a milkshake, and these all come together in the set. So you get all of them. the banana split, the popsicle, and the ice cream cone, all nice and lightweight. And then one of our sold out items has come back, although I don't know if it'll still be available by the time this podcast posts. Oh, I'm using one of them. So from the Littlest Charm Co., these are polymer clay stitch markers. We have our mint chocolate chip narwhal. This has come back. It is a pre-order, which means it will ship in 3 weeks. So just keep that in mind when you order, if you're wanting to get it in time for Sock Week. And then her other one I have here on my Huckleberry socks, which I think actually we have more of this yarn as well from So Happy Jane. Everything is on nittynatty.com, so you can find it there. There is a Neapolitan ice cream sandwich that is so stinking cute. So you can get the narwhal and the ice cream sandwich as a set or individually. I didn't check, but this actually might be available too. I've been loving this bag. It's like the perfect purse project bag, so I keep it in my purse with my sock project. It is so nice. So I think that's everything. 2 of our yarns have sold out and are done, but I will continue to update everything on Instagram and on nittynatty.com. And that brings us to the life segment, which I apologize, I totally skipped last week because I just had way too much to talk about last week. But we have been putting out our Canada vlogs, and everyone really, really loved our Newfoundland vlog. So thank you so, so much. If you haven't seen the Quebec one, I would recommend going back and watching that one. We do spend time in Montreal and Quebec City, but we also go to an alpaca farm. That's like the main part of the video, which is super cool. And then our Nova Scotia one just came out this week. We went to a bunch of yarn stores, actually, in Halifax and in Sydney, North Sydney, I think. Anyway, super, super fun. And then we have coming up New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. So those are the places that we have visited so far. And then as we continue to travel, we will keep making a video for every province, which is going to be fun. Now, here's what's happening this past week. So we had planned to come back into the US for about 9 days or so. We were going to get our van looked at. It's been making this noise. We've taken it in several times. Like even since we started traveling in Canada, we took it in Ottawa. But like it was still making this noise. So we're like, okay, we'll take the van in, we'll visit some friends. It'll be a nice break. And then we'll continue on and go back into Canada. Well, we took the van in early this week. Actually, Kent did. I can't take credit for that. And unfortunately, we need a new transmission for Lydia, our van. So that is a much bigger problem than the other things that we've had fixed in the past, mostly because it just takes a really long time to get that part in. So they estimated anywhere from 3 weeks at a minimum to several months. So we're really hoping it's on the 3 weeks end. And we decided to stay with our friends here in Pennsylvania in the meantime, because they're amazing. We thought about a lot of different things we could do. Like, should we go back to Nashville? Like, what should we do? But we don't have another vehicle. So we figured if we're going to be stuck anywhere, we'd rather be stuck hanging out with friends. So it's kind of the best situation for us. And like I said, I'm getting a lot of time to knit and spin and crochet, which has been really awesome. But kind of stinky because our plans for Canada have been delayed. So even if we get going after 3 weeks, we're still going to be about 2 weeks behind, which I think we can make up. We can kind of rearrange things. But if it gets to be any longer than that, we're going to have to think seriously about how we proceed with our Canada trip. So stay tuned. We still plan to travel at this point, so we'll just have to see what happens. Like I said, I've had a really relaxed week. It's been really nice. My workload at this point is kind of tuned in for travel, so I don't have quite as much to do as I would if I were not traveling, which means it's left me with extra time to knit and crochet, to relax, to kind of rest up. I feel like this has been good timing because I've really needed it. So I'm trying to actually take advantage and relax and not feel stressed about not being productive, but that is harder to do than it would seem. I did do a little bit of pampering this week. I got a pedicure, which was super, super nice. I also got a massage. I actually got a trigger point therapy massage because this part of my back and neck has been really hurting, and that was super, super nice. So very grateful to be able to get those two things done. And then coming up this next week, because we are in Pennsylvania, we are not too far from our friends in New Jersey. So we're going to be heading down to New Jersey to the beach-ish. Our friends live near the beach, like really close to the beach. So we'll be able to hang out with our friends in New Jersey, maybe go to the beach on the weekend. It's going to be really stinking hot. So possibly. I left my bathing suit in the van, my one and only bathing suit that I have. So I think we're going to try to swing by and grab that on our way down to New Jersey so that I don't have to buy another one, which I won't have the space to store. So yeah, that's the plan. We're just taking it one day at a time. But in the meantime, I really am grateful, especially to our friends, for hosting us for this time and being willing to just kind of go with the flow with us, as is travel when you don't have a home base. Anyway, that's everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.